Annyeong, it's Mikey here, and guys, I'm coming back to you with another video this week, and today I gotta thank Annyeong, it's Mikey here, and guys, I'm coming back to you with another video this week, and today's gonna be back to a keyboard review, and thank you guys so much for your support. I can't believe it's already at 4,100, like past 4,100 subscribers. This is crazy. I never thought this channel would ever get this far when I started it, and it's all thanks to you guys and your guys' support, so thank you guys so much, and hopefully this channel can get even further and keep growing, and I can keep improving all the things that I'm doing. Now today I want to thank Gamakay. They actually sent me another keyboard out. So Gamakay, last time I did the full-size board. This time they sent me the TK75 Pro. So we're gonna have to take a look to see, how good is this board? Is it worth your money? And yeah, let's see what it looks like as well. So let's go straight into the unboxing, and please make sure to like and subscribe.
Now starting off with the unboxing of the Gamakay TK75 Pro. Now, thank you again to Gamakay for sending me this out. So opening up the box, as you can see, there's not really a separate accessories box. There's just a compartment inside the box itself. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I feel like Gamakay's packaging is very, very basic. So just please keep that in mind. But if you are looking at Gamakay boards, the packaging is not going to be anything crazy or amazing. It's just going to be an incredibly basic packaging. And the cable as well was actually very, very simple. Now, the case of this board actually feels really incredible. I was quite impressed. It does feel kind of light for an aluminum board, but you also get like a USB dongle slot. You also have Bluetooth 2.4G and a USB-C port. And of course, we're gonna have to weigh this before going into sound test. So let's see how much this thing weighs. And this thing weighs about 1.46 kilos. So let's do a sound test. So I felt like the keyboard kind of sounded a little bit more on the clackier side. It's like a clacky thok, kind of like in between. Of course, now we're gonna take this apart, look what's inside, see what's inside of this board. As you can see there, I'm having trouble trying to remove the knob. This knob is actually quite stuck in, so you don't actually have to worry about your knob falling off if that was ever a worry, obviously, because I can't even get that out with my hands at all. Now, we're going to be looking for where the screws are. So as you can see here, we're moving up all the keycaps where it's covering the screws. So the screws are hidden. It's actually screwed right in for the top case into the board. So we have total of 6 screws, and of course we're going to get it out with the screwdriver. Make sure you also use the correct size for the screws, even though it's the same Phillips. I have to make sure to use a bigger one because the smaller one, I don't want to strip the screws at all. So we use the correct size, and then we're going to get all the little screws out on the corners. So now that all the screws have been fully loosened, we're going to take off the top gasket to see what this board looks like inside and take a look to see what we're getting inside of this board. Now, I wanted to make sure to keep the screws all in one spot, so I'm moving to the side and then taking it out. Now, I tried to remove the cable because I do want to do like a test without any foam. Unfortunately, removing the cable was actually not going to be a good option because the way that the data cable is actually plugged in is it's actually split up into each pin, and that makes it quite difficult. That's something that I don't like playing with because it really does damage the pin, or it could break it. And you know me, I break things a lot, and I didn't want to break this before I finished all of the testings that had to be done. So right there, I popped off the volume knob there. That was the only way I could actually get it out. Now, surprisingly enough, the top gasket is actually quite thick. I was quite surprised by how thick it was. Thought it'd be a little bit thinner because a lot of the other boards I've tried actually is quite thin on the top. But as you can see, the top case was a bit thin, as on the thicker side. And there is the plate mount stabilizers, and you can see the switches. It also has just a PC. It's going to be a PC plate, and then a foam in between, and then you have a foam on the bottom of the case as well. So you have total 2 foams for this board, and then you have the static and the plastic sheet on the bottom. So no other foams in there. It's just going to be like that. And the bottom of the case itself is actually quite not a lot of space either. So you can see how flat it is, and then it's just the foam on top. So you're actually really screwing in the gasket on top there. But as you can see there, you're supposed to get these little knobs that are supposed to go into the plate to go into the bottom case. Mine didn't have that. And that's kind of weird because in the website, it does say that that's what they're doing. So it's a little bit of a concern that maybe something went wrong in terms of the manufacturing. But other than that, I'm going to be doing a tape mod for this because I couldn't get the cable out. So I'm sorry, guys, I can't give you guys like a clacky sound test to see how it is. But let's do the modding and then take a quick sound test, of course, of what the modded sounds like. So now that we finished doing the 2 layers of tape, we're going to put this whole board back together now. And again, it's just weird, right? Like this whole system that I'm doing within the knobs that are missing, I'm really curious if this is just a one-time off on my part. The one that they sent me was just a possible defect, right? Like there are times that it could happen, especially if you're mass manufacturing. So just keep that in mind. When you get yours, you should double check on yours for sure to make sure that you are getting it correct, right? Because that is what you want. Like you want to make sure that everything is correctly there. So of course we're gonna put all the screws back in and put it back together. And of course make sure all the keycaps are gonna be put back, and then see what else I need to do for the modifications, which is gonna be the next part is gonna be the spacebar. So we will modify the spacebar. So now my favorite modification for the spacebar is actually using a car sound dampener. It's just because you can cut it up really easily, make sure you fit it right in. And it works really well for even modifying the bottom case if you have enough space on the bottom. This case didn't have it, so obviously I just did tape mod. But normally I like to do like really heavy modifications. It's just so that, it gives many people options to like, if they want a deeper sound, they can get there, and just giving you guys the way to figure out how to do so. Now here as well, I felt like the stabilizers. So it is plate mounted stabilizers, and I did feel like it was pretty still well done stock. I noticed that there's not a lot of lube in there, as you can tell right there. Like it's not really well lubed in terms of coming stock, but I felt like there wasn't a ton of tinging. But the space bar, as you can see, the left side did have some. So I just grabbed my syringe, and then we're gonna just add a little bit of lube in there. This is the easiest way to do so to help your stabilizers. And then I'll give you guys a little sound test of course, what the whole board modified is going to sound like. So now that we've done all the modding, time to go into the actual my thoughts of using this board. So in total, it's a 75% board. The finish of this board is actually quite interesting. So I wanted to bring this up close to the ground because as you can see how, like, I'm not sure if you guys can really see the full detail in it, but let me just move my lighting, of course, to kind of give you guys a better lighting to see it. But the material, like the painting finish, is actually quite interesting on this board. Now, some people might like it, some people might not. It almost feels like it was hand painted or like painted with a brush than it was, say, spray painted, say, like other boards. When you get a lot of other keyboards, usually the aluminum finish with the paint is going to be very, very smooth, like incredibly smooth. This one, you feel the lumps and you feel the paint above it. And it's pros and cons, right? Like if it's painted, there's a chance that over time and like in a short period of time, it could come off. I'm not sure. This really will have to come with a long-term testing. But as you could hear right there, it is an aluminum board. So it is interesting. I mean, I actually liked the feel of it. It almost felt like it was a hand-painted, more premium build to it, even though it felt maybe like not as smooth, say, as CNC would be. But I was quite impressed with it, and it felt different. Like it just felt different. With all the boards nowadays feeling very similar to each other, and the materials being used pretty much very similar, this board just felt different in my hands, and it felt great to actually use it because of it. And I actually felt like this was a little bit different than other boards. Now, it does have the USB dongle section there. It doesn't feel like it's an actually magnetic one. It feels like it's just a slot that was built to fit the USB dongle perfectly. There might be like a very light magnet in there, like a weaker one, but it felt like it wasn't there. In terms of the sound profile of this board, though, it did feel like it was a little bit more on the higher pitch side. It is actually not that loud, though. So compared to the sound test that you guys will hear in person, it actually is quite quiet. And I was surprised of how more quiet the switches were in this board. And in terms of using it, you know, with at work in the office, it actually was actually quite fine. I didn't have any issues at the office. I didn't feel like I was overbearing loud. The sound profile, though, I don't think it was a very pleasant sound, though. But as you can see here, let me just give you guys a little bit more of a close-up with the switch and exactly what I was talking about earlier with the stabilizers, right? Now, again, this is plate-mounted stabilizers. A lot of boards nowadays are doing more plate-mounted stabilizers, and it's just a easier fix, easier thing to do. If you ever feel like you do need to replace your stabilizers, I would suggest going with a designer's studio plate mount. They're much cheaper and they work really well. But I would say nowadays a lot of companies are pretty good with bringing stabilizers that aren't horrible and tingy. But if you ever need to, just put some lube in them and it should help. Now, this is the KTT Highcanth. Sorry, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but the Highcanth switch. Now, this switch, I am not a big fan of it. I felt like it was, how should I say, like the switches feel not as smooth. It doesn't feel as satisfying either. It's got a little bit of a higher ping to it at the end, so when it hits the bottom you hear that higher ping sound. It doesn't have too much stem wobble, but you still get some stem wobble. Sorry, my camera for some reason loves to focus on my fingers more than it does on the actual switch, and I keep trying to do manual focus with it, trying to force it to really focus on there, but a lot of the times I find that it keeps focusing on the wrong section. As you can see, I'm having troubles really getting it properly focused. If anyone has any advice on that, that would be very helpful. But as you can see there, you do get some stem wobble at the bottom, and it's not the most ideal, right? You don't want stem wobble on your switches, and this one does have stem wobble quite more vertically than horizontally, but the stem wobble is there, and you can feel it when you actually bottom out on your keys. So you will see like it going around in a circle right there, and that's because you do get stem wobble with these switches. But as I said, the KTT does have this high ting at the end, like right when it hits the bottom, and I'm not a big fan of that sound. But again, this is a personal preference. Everyone can enjoy something different. A lot of people might like the switch and might like the sound profile more. It's like a between of like a clacky and a thok sound. As you can hear right there, it's like a kind of like an in between. But I'd say a little bit more on the it's not really a full clack key. I can't say it's a full clack key, but kind of in between there. Now, it is a decent switch. It's about 56 grams in terms of force, but it's like, it doesn't feel too heavy though. It does feel a little bit on the lighter side. Now, I do want to give you guys a backlighting test. So show you guys what the backlighting is like, and how, is it bright enough or is it dark? Is it dim? Depending on the person, some people might like it, some people might not. So as you can see, as I go dimmer and dimmer and turn it off, the lighting, you can see it on my camera, but it is actually quite dim. So it's really not on the bright side for this keyboard. I noticed that these specific switches, the lighting is quite dim, and because the keycaps are not shine through, and as you can see right there with like how the switches are as well, the lighting are very dim, and you will notice that a lot, specifically as if you're in front of it, and like if you turn off the lights in your room and you use this board, you will notice that the lighting is quite dim, and this is where the brightness actually has maxed out. So compared to say other switches and other boards, definitely this is a much dimmer board. So keep that in mind if you are someone who actually likes to have a very bright board and very bright backlighting. Now, let's go into the site before we go back into the review of like where to find the software and find a little bit more information and such. So right now I need to just change, of course, the pricing to USD because it was in Canadian, and I think I try to, a lot of times, even though I'm in Canada, I like to kind of make more of like a universal pricing set. So at the USD, it is right now currently on sale for 100 USD. This was at the time of my recording. This board at 100 USD is actually not a horrible value. I mean, thinking about the whole build quality and everything, it's actually quite good. It comes with Prelude, the Hyacinth? I guess that's how you pronounce it. Switch, but it only has 4,000 milliamp hour battery. It's really not a lot of battery compared to say some other boards out there. Like the Star 75 is going to be 8,000 milliamp hours. So this is only 4,000. It has all the tri modes, right? So you're getting the Bluetooth, 2.4 gigahertz USB dongle, wireless as well as wired. See, this is the knob I was talking about. They have this in the website, yet mine was missing that. So I'm wondering like what happened, or if maybe that was incorrectly put on the website. Just make sure you double check on yours to make sure if you have or don't have that. I would let you know. And also the switches that they put there is not the Hyacinth switch. The KHD Hyacinth is not the switches that are actually in the images there. So there's a lot of confusion that I was getting from the website and the things that was actually being shown. Now, at the top, it does give you the software. Gives you a little bit of a warm tip, too, to make sure to use the right software and make sure that you don't end up using the incorrect one and then messing it up. So you just have to make sure to download it correctly. Make sure it's the one for the TK75 Pro, right, and not something else. And make sure it's either what Mac or Windows, depending on what you need. Now, this is what the software looks like. As you guys have seen this many times before, a lot of companies are using this right now. I know that LumenKey has the same software. I thought the Mons Geek is like using a similar one. So is Gamakay, Apple Maker. Pretty much everyone's using this right now at the moment. This is a big tip for you guys. If you didn't know, you can actually change the the key setting, like which key does what, changing it through here. So it doesn't really give you other options, right? But actually, if you do it through what I'm doing right now, where there's like a little keyboard logo there, if you click on it, you can actually set it without having to do a combination. You can actually just set a single key to that specific one that you want it to be. So keep that in mind, because that is something that is very interesting that you can do. And even though it doesn't say that you can do it, and it's very specifically for the combination keys, you actually don't have to do it with combinations. And something like this is really helpful for me, because if I get a 75 without an Alt, I need to change the control to an Alt on the right side, because I use Alt to change language between Korean and English. Also, keynote, this does have different layers, and you can do function settings as well. Note that there is no function toggle key, so you can't actually like press it and then just toggle it so that the function keys work. You actually have to press FN and then click on the correct one. So keep that in mind. This does not have a function toggle. Also the red ones. So see the blues, those are already set functions. The red ones you're not able to change at all. So those reds are, even if you try to change it, it will not allow you to. Now you are able to put macros on this keyboard. I don't use macros, so unfortunately, I can't give you guys a good example of putting macros in. I don't really know how or what kind of macros I'd even set. So something that I'd have to actually probably study up on to figure out myself to understand what would be perfect for others and for those that want to use it. Now, in terms of the software, I find that this one is very basic. It does the job, right? Like you can do lighting changes here, as you can see. Like I just did always on and then choose a color, my brightness at max. And then, of course, they have other presettings that you can choose from. And then you can even actually change the knob. So the volume knob is programmable. You can actually change it to different medias or and different mouse inputs if you wanted to, or even key like strokes that you can actually choose it as well. So the knob is programmable, which is really nice to see. And it's interesting how it's done that way. So it has like those 3 sections and you have to choose. The software I find is a very basic software. It does the basic job. I think it seems that they're slowly making updates and trying to fix this and make it better. I know it's a global software, and then companies are just reshaping it to their own logos and such to make with their keyboards. But I'm not still a big fan of it yet. Now, with the polling rate testers, so we use Keyboard Inspector. You are getting 1,000 hertz. Please note that I don't have a full thing to change or to check the latency. Hopefully in the future, I can actually start doing a little bit more technical testings with the boards. All in all, this board at 100 USD, I think that's like benchmark now for a lot of aluminum boards. It's like 100 USD is the price point where it's supposed to be like budget, and there are some that are a bit lower than 100 USD, but it seems like that's kind of the whole market pricing right now for a budget board. Budget boards are getting better and better, right? Like as the market has been growing and more companies are entering, I feel like definitely the pricing for boards have gotten much, much lower, like way lower compared to it used to be, right? When I was first looking at my first custom board, a budget was like 200 USD, right? And that was my Zoom 75 at the time. This board compared to say other ones, good ones that I can explain is like Rainy, Bridge, ND75, the Stars. I'm going to give you guys a sound test to give you the difference. So out of all the 75% boards, where would I put this in the ranking? I would say the Star 75, Rainy 75, Bridge 75 I'd put a bit higher, and the ND 75 as well. I would put actually this after them, and that's just because the other boards I feel like were built a little bit with more quality, and the sound profile is a little bit more towards what I prefer. Again, this is my preference of sound profile. Everyone has their own preference, and you can like something that's a little bit more higher pitched, and you can definitely like something that is with software, and it's a personal preference thing. The reason I just do that is because the Range 75, the Wakecast Stars, and the Bridge are all VIA compatible, which I really like a lot more. I think the VIA compatibility for me is much more useful than, say, a software like the Gamakay is using. This board, though, in general, I think is well done for $100 USD, and something you can definitely take a look at. I'll have the links down below in the description, and you should check it out. I mean, it is interesting to see.
Now, let me know down below in the comments what you guys thought of the Gamakay TK75 Pro. I was actually kind of surprised in terms of the material. So the feeling, as I explained in the review, going like in the video, the feeling of this board was quite interesting. Like it was actually really interesting. The actual paint itself and like the finish of it, it felt different. Like a lot of the boards lately, I feel like kind of are very similar to each other in terms of like the paint work and like the quality of the work that's being done. This one just felt different, and I was quite surprised with that. It doesn't feel like your usual paint, and almost like it's hand painted. Like that's kind of almost the feel I got from it. And you would think that that might sound bad, but actually, it was actually quite nice. So really, I think you should guys. Sorry, if you're interested, you should go take a look in the links in the description. Take a look at it yourself. And the switches I know that came with the KTT weren't amazing. They're on the clacky side, so if you are someone who likes clacky switches, definitely might be more interested in these ones. But I will also do a short with like different switches in this too, just to see what it sounds like with something else. And yeah, I mean, hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe and catch the other videos I got, and I'll see you guys next time.